Welcome back to the M3 podcast. It's Rick and I again in the podcast room at HQ. And the last couple we've done, we went over time. We went over attention. We did one more. What was that one on?
We were going to do one more. We didn't make it to the third.
Did we not make it to the third?
No, it was just the two.
Just the two? All right. So today we're going over the illusion of control. And how much of your life are you really in control? And I think this is something that I've been looking at more lately and been having a lot of conversations about. I think most of us like to believe that we're steering our own ship, that our choices, our discipline, our plans are what shape our future. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in what the goal is, what the long-term vision is, that ultimately that big picture is made up from what we do day over day. And I want to go over why humans as a whole cling to control so much.
I definitely think that people are afraid of the unknown, sort of in general, whether that's clinging to their past and something they're familiar with, or they're expecting results that are similar to what they've experienced in the past. I think a lot of times people struggle with the unknown and not knowing what the outcome is going to be. And I don't know if that makes them anxious or what, but I think that's why we kind of try to have control over everything.
Yeah, I think control definitely, when people, they think they're in control, it gives them the illusion of safety. And there's times that I've thought that I was in full control of business. There's times I thought I was in full control of a relationship and so on and so forth. And ultimately at the end of the day, you don't have the control of, I don't have the control of what Ricky does every day. I don't have the control of what Madison does every day or what my brother does every day. And you can map it out so well in your head, but ultimately you don't have the control of all those things. You have the control of what you can do every day. And I think it is a illusion of what control really is. And that illusion is also very fragile. And one thing goes different during a day, the whole thing falls. So I think a lot of our life is very random, and I think opportunities appear without warning. And with that control, if you were so focused on this control, I think a lot of times people have mapped it out and they miss opportunities.
Like they kind of have blinders on going after whatever it is they're trying to do, and then they lose the opportunity that comes from the side that could have been 10 times better, but they didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and I think it's when you appear that you have this control over every aspect of everything that's happening, and when no matter what, a day's not going to pan out to exactly what you think. And I say even like compressing it down and looking at that short of a time frame, even look at an hour. Like if you sit at your desk, maybe you can get an hour planned out and control an hour of your time. But really, when you start looking at it over, just look at the last year of your life. How much of it did it go just perfectly according to plan every single second of it?
Yeah, not very much.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think I've always held I felt like there's the pressure of the world on me because I wanted to know what that was. I wanted to know what the next step was. I wanted to feel like I was in control of that. And I think as I've kind of put my hands up to say, hey, I don't need to have the control of what tomorrow holds. I just need to do the right thing in the now, and tomorrow will yield what it does. So I think that loosening the grip on control is a hard thing to do. I think it's probably the ultimate thing that keeps most business owners back. How many people do we have come in that they have so much control of they think they have so much control of their business, but they've kept their paw and they've micromanaged every person that's in their walls. They won't let the accounting go because they don't trust anybody. And you start really looking in the mirror of a business, that you can do it as an individual, but you look at the mirror as a business. Most of the time it's a control issue that someone's holding.
Yeah, they think it's them like having control over everything, which just turns into a bottleneck in the business because they aren't trusting their team to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. So I think the shift from outcome to process. So shifting that mindset from only focusing on what the outcome is, that I've shifted a lot to what the process is of what we do every day. That, yeah, I have the idea of the fantasy factory. We were talking about this morning. The idea is there. The vision's there. The process every day is what's going to make that a reality. And I think sometimes when you get lost in that in between, it's a control factor that if I look at the process every day that has to happen for the fantasy factory to be a reality, I have to give up a lot of control. I have to change the way that we operate as a business. I have to change the way I operate as an individual. Have you seen that change with fatherhood?
So I would say where I'm noticing it the most right now is not having the control of how my day pans out. Real easy example is this morning we're trying to let Colin sleep through the night. And she is sleeping really well, so we don't want to necessarily just wake her up to feed her for no reason. But with that, it kind of changes what my morning routine is because now I'm at some point reacting to when she wakes up. And that's something that I kind of had to, just a small shift I had to make was one, just getting up earlier to make sure I have the workout in. So I have everything done by the time she gets up. And the same goes in the evenings, just not having as much control over your schedule and being okay with that. That's been kind of tough.
I feel like you've gotten into a pretty good rhythm with it already, though.
Yeah.
That you've accepted it. That I feel like there's a lot of people that come from a very structured, very controlled environment. And, when you don't have children or even dogs or whatever it may be, like I feel like you can become more and more controlled in your environment. And I think a lot of people struggle to adapt that change because they go to changing their process and they just eliminate things towards this or that. And I think there's a ecosystem where they all live in together, where you say, hey, I'm not sacrificing my workouts just because I have to feed Collins in the morning or whatever. You're like, okay, I'm waking up earlier, finding that time, being more disciplined to recreate that schedule. Where in your life do you mistake influence for control? Are there areas where you believe you're steering the outcome, but in reality, luck or timing is playing the larger role?
That's interesting. There are scenarios where luck and timing kind of creates an incidence or a set of consequences that wouldn't happen otherwise. When we crossed paths, that wasn't necessarily like out of my actions that happened. I guess technically you saw the gym on social media and you saw the gym on social media because of the action we're taking every day. But what that opens up is the opportunity for those, for luck to come in or for those chance encounters, which I think if you're not focused on the bigger picture, you kind of miss those because you have the blinders on, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's an instance where I don't like the word luck.
I'm not a big luck person either. So it's like I've really worked on working a lot on the input to generate better questions.
Yeah.
Via the podcast side. And I also think doing this is going to make it to where the podcast in the future is better. And we're going to be much more dialed in on what we're doing. But some of the time, it's funny when I start generating these questions, like I start running all these scenarios in my head. I'm like, do I really believe in luck?
Yeah. But also there are so many, like regardless of what played into it, like there's a chance thing that happened that you maybe didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to call that, I feel like that is where sometimes the really, the big jumps in life come from. But oftentimes the reason those are there in the first place is taking control over okay, what can I actually do today? And I think the more you can do the right thing and move towards your goals today, instead of just living in this la la land of having the big dreams and everything, the more you take to put towards that goal, the more you're going to have those opportunities, or the more they're going to come up for luck or chance to play a role.
So that's when I was going over questions earlier, I think luck and timing is something that happens when you are disciplined day over day. You're doing I have so many people that tell me that I'm lucky, but I'm like, I think I've done the things and done the actionable steps that's put me in the right rooms to find luck. I don't think I mistakenly ended up in those spots towards being prepared for when those opportunities arise, that you can seize them at that moment. So that's where, do I fully believe in luck? I think that there is something that plays a bigger vision of everything, but I don't, the wild thing too is, like, I know super lazy people that just don't have a work ethic and shit, and they have hit it, and they have hit it big, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
To where it's sometimes, even when you watch like some of these, famous artists and stuff, they're just making millions of dollars, and like I'm so like, have you watched the Charlie Sheen documentary?
I haven't.
Dude, it was like I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, I get up super early every morning. I work out. I'm disciplined at work. I'm reading. I'm watching podcasts, trying to better myself. And then you have somebody that's like partying like a rock star, doing cocaine 24/7, and like, dude literally cannot, like, in 2.5 Men they were negotiating. He's like, I don't want to do it, and they offered him I think it was $1 million or $2 million per episode that he was getting paid, and they're like, we're gonna say you went to rehab just so we can keep the show going.
Just so they can keep it rolling?
Yeah, and he totally didn't. And they're like, everyone knew that he was just strung out 10 ways to Tuesday, but the show was working so well. And I'm just like, is that luck? Or is he just that talented that he was doing everything to blow up his world and like couldn't?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is wild. Like, I'm watching with Madison, and I'm just like, how does somebody navigate that? There'd be like 2 or 3 days he just wouldn't show up to film. You have full like production crews, everyone's there, and he just like doesn't show up because he was just so strung out on drugs and so messed up.
But I guess he just played the character so well that you got to put him in there.
To where it's like, sometimes I look at those and it makes me question it all. Is that luck?
Yeah. And the same goes to like a little bit with what we do on the day-to-day. Like, we can have all kinds of input on our side of the things that we can control, and we replicate those results across different companies. But then you have the outlier that something just pops off and a post goes viral.
Yeah.
And it's like, a lot of the times it's the same thing. Well, it's like, they didn't do this, or this. This is probably wrong, but it still popped off and got millions of views. And
yeah. I don't know. I think that's one that I don't think there's a set answer to.
Yeah.
Because you go ask 100 people and get a different answer to that every single time. And I look at too as like, go watch documentaries. That there's some form of luck that plays into a lot of it. That I've always looked at the discipline things that you put in every day are going to lead you to where you're supposed to go, and I'm still going to live by that. I'm not going off the course of that. But there's sometimes I'm watching stuff, I'm like, wow, that was got it.
Just good timing.
Yeah.
Pick the right one.
But next one. What has life taken from you that proved you weren't in charge? A setback, a loss, or a twist of fate that forced you to confront how little you control.
Let me do some thinking on that. Does anything come to mind to you?
I have one where when we were scaling up, we had a really large dealership group. And when we were operating with them, I felt it was the first time that we as a company acquired money that kind of got to where we weren't drowning anymore. It was the first time I felt like once again, I felt like I was in control. I felt like we gained momentum. I felt like we were out of this threshold that we weren't bleeding anymore, and it was like we were profitable, and it was like, oh, this is cool. And the crazy thing was the marketing was working so well. And it was a account that when we lost it, it wasn't something that our team did. It wasn't something that we were executing what we were supposed to be doing. There was a difference in the way I was viewed. And I'll say it, because I had tattoos, we end up losing a huge account. And it's crazy to lose something like that I feel that we were in full control, that I feel like we were unstoppable at that time. And this was well into 7 figures a year account. And to have that pulled immediately, like I kind of sat back that night. I'm like, am I really in control of this? I'm like,
Oh,
it was a matter of 30 minutes from we have everything figured out, life's good, like rocking and rolling, like I'm building the future vision, like we're not that far away from it. And then all of a sudden it's like rug's pulled out from underneath you, and like I'm sitting at home, I'm like, do we close this thing up? Like I feel like I wasn't in control at all. And I think it was a great thing that happened to me overall as an individual to experience that, because it made me step back and say like, hey, you can't sit in comfort. Like this is what happens when you sit in that comfort state. So that was definitely like kind of the one that came to my mind.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example.
Yeah, it ringed my clock pretty good.
How long do you feel like it took you to kind of make that realization or the perception change from feeling like, oh shit, to being able to make something positive out of it? Or did it only turn positive in retrospect looking back at it, or like while you were going through it, did you make that shift?
I will say I feel like my strongest traits is I can look at the positive pretty much on everything. It really sucked. I knew I didn't have full control like I thought I did, but I also felt like I was fortunate enough to be standing with the right people, and I wasn't scared of what was to come next. I knew we'd figure it out, to where it wasn't like financially it was rough. But I don't know, I've never really worried about if the business like went under or like if it all fell apart business wise. Like
I don't think you can spend a lot of time worrying or thinking about that.
Well, I don't really worry about it because what's the worst case? I go get a job like I had before and I do the same thing I did before this. Like I can go do that again tomorrow.
Yep.
That's worst case scenario. To where it's like I really don't like what most people think is like a huge fear, and they're worried about like falling in front of people and failing in front of everyone. Like I've never really like been fearful of that. Like I don't have anything to prove. Like I take that back. I do have a chip on my shoulder that I want fucking people to watch, and like I love fucking proving people wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm not scared of failing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What's scary to me is like if you stay in a job that you hate forever. Like if you were still at the dealership doing something that you didn't want to be doing, like that's a lot more scary than betting on yourself and taking the risk.
Yeah. And it's, once again, like I didn't even really explore opportunities out there in between. Like I don't even know why. Like I think it was also because it was COVID, so it was just like a really weird state. Because at one point when I left, I was going to explore the idea. Like right when I left, I was going to explore the idea of getting a job somewhere else. Like, it wasn't like it was just like marketing company or die out the gate. And then like everything kind of closed. And I was like, oh shit, how am I going to make some money? I was like, I spoke about the marketing company, but it kind of came in. COVID, I think, is what kind of like pushed it into existence, actually. Because if everything would have been open at that time, I probably would have explored some other. I really wanted like a high level like sales position that could control my time. I knew I wanted to control my time, and this seemed like the second best idea. But then kind of first idea got taken away. So this was my idea of like trying to figure out how to pay the bills. And it just ended up costing me way more money than I thought. So retrospect, but it's taught me a lot about who I am. It's taught me a lot, and it's placed me around all the right people, and it's been fun. But once again, I thought I was in full control when I left the dealership. 2 days later, the whole country closes down. I'm like, oh shit. How do you control that?
But then then the crazy thing is, looking back, turned out it was really good timing.
Yeah. So it's sometimes I think there is a story that's supposed to be written that you just might not know what the next chapter looks like. And I think it's one of those things too that if the story is going to be worth reading, there's going to be hiccups in it.
There's got to be some conflict in there.
Yeah. And I think we've definitely had our fair share of those. So one day now, pretty much the idea that I go with day in and day out is just hopefully one day that this story isn't boring. So
I don't think it's going to be a boring story.
I definitely don't think it will be either. Next one. How does your pursuit of control add stress to your life? Are you over-planning, over-managing, or blaming yourself for things that aren't actually yours to carry? I can attest to this one that I think a lot of times control adds a lot of stress to my life.
Yeah.
And I think as a business owner, I think as management side and a company, I think this is one that cripples a lot of people. That there's been days of people doing things that I can't control. And as much as I want to try, it's a road that if you take that pathway, it can be really long and really tiring. So, do you think it adds stress to your life?
I would say there's definitely things that I could be... Yeah, not as much now, I feel like, as the last role that I was in, but with like delegation in general. Like the more things that you can delegate and not be as worried about, is it going to get messed up the first time? Well, yeah, probably. But that's also just part of it.
Yeah.
And then whoever's doing it is going to be able to learn from that and get better, and then eventually probably be better than you were doing it in the first place because they can put more of their bandwidth towards it than you'd be able to. And that's, I think, what holds a lot of people back, especially the business owners that we talk with all the time, is just lack of being able to let that control go so that they can focus on something more important and the team underneath them can embrace some of that control or some of that responsibility.
Do you think that over planning adds stress to your life at all?
I would say so, because then it gets back to like life happens and things come up and then it throws off the plans, and then you're kind of stuck with, oh, well, now we just got to deal with it. So then there's kind of that sunk cost of that time spent planning. Because
I feel a lot of times over planning, once again, I'm going to say Madison and I as a couple or as a pair are very bad about this. That there's days that, like, I look at my calendar for the next 30-something days and I don't have an open day on it. Like between trips, coming back, dinners, just stuff before, after business, day in and day out. Like last night we had something on our calendar. We totally spaced it, and it was like an hour before it was supposed to happen. I was like, hey, I'm texting somebody that we can't make it. And I felt like stressed out, like that I just had so much on my calendar, and like because we fly out tomorrow, and it's like we're hit 2 podcasts today, we've hit taco review today, did MMG content today, and it's like sometimes it does just feel overplanned, and it's.
So you mean even so, like not going through and like scheduling your day out and stuff, but like having so much on the calendar?
I think sometimes when you overplan and you don't leave time for that, just hey, like. When we go to Colorado, what I'm most excited about is our calendar's not booked out while we're there.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, what are you most excited about? I'm like, yeah, we have a couple nice dinners, but I'm excited getting up in a day and having no plans and going and hiking for the day.
The white space.
Yeah.
Just nothing planned. You just get to figure it out.
But I think a lot of people that have a factor for wanting that high level control, one of the places that they target it at is their calendar that you can control by putting those things in there. You get so regimented that sometimes I feel like it stresses me out that I'm not living my life enough. I'm like, is that the right way to do it?
Yeah.
Sometimes
No, I definitely.
I drive in, I see like a homeless dude sitting in a chair, just like smiling ear to ear. And I'm like, does this guy have it figured out? Like maybe this guy hasn't figured it out because I'm driving into work.
Yeah, you're going to this place and then this place to do this thing.
He ain't worried about what's on his calendar for the day. He's just sitting on the bridge, just loving life. He had like a sandwich or something. I'm like, dude, like some days you look at that, you're like, do we switch spots? So I think that control, though, it comes with so much that happens. As you progress in life, as you become more successful, more control pieces end up falling into your area, onto your plate, or whatever it might be. It's figuring out how to not let those things overstress you. That I think just kind of throwing your hands up and surrendering and just saying like, hey, I can control what happens today, but then tomorrow's a different day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that goes for relationships too. I think there's a lot of people that want to control other people. And like something since I've ever been with Madison, like I love Madison for who she is. I don't try to control her. I don't try to make her someone else. I think a lot of times people will see this version of someone that they want to try to create, they want to try to control. And I don't know if that gives them a sense of power or, I don't know. I'm not a relationship coach or anything but like that. I feel like I have a pretty great relationship.
I feel like you're doing pretty good.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I have a lot of people ask me relationship questions, but I think to that point, I think let people be who they are.
Yeah.
And don't try to control them and put them in a box of what you want them to be. So, any final thoughts on control?
I would say the one thing that you absolutely can control, and I think maybe it's the most important thing to control, is your attitude. That's something that you can control throughout the ebbs and flows of the daily life that you don't necessarily have control over. That's the one thing that you can come back to, which I think you do a phenomenal job of, is maintaining that positive outlook. Because that's just going to make everything easier, and then you're going to enjoy the road along the way a lot more too.
I mean, you can be riding in the storm, but might as well enjoy it. So
if you're smiling in the rain, it looks a whole lot different than if you're running through the rain looking all sad.
Yeah. My final quote on this is, you can't control the storm, but you can control the sails.
There we go.
So I think it's the storm is a great place to be, and I've always said that's where champions are born. But you do have controls of your sails in those moments. So I like that. I like the attitude one. That's we all have control of that every day. So that's the M3 podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, listen again next week. I'm getting much better.
You are getting good, man.
But join us again next week.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.